Okay. Are you guys ready?
I was born.
I'm picking a fake name.
I'm Skye.
Hello. I'm Hayden Antonio Marcus II.
I'm Sterling.
I'm Ben.
Ben?
I'm Ben.
Okay. So, on this episode, I'm joined by my nephew and his friends. So I'm just going to leave it at that explanation. Today, I'm talking about the conspiracy that Paul McCartney is dead. Okay, so... Ben, did you learn who Paul McCartney is on your car ride today? No. So Ben doesn't know who Paul McCartney is. Sterling, do you know who Paul McCartney is?
He's a lead singer. I forget of what band, but I remember him being a lead singer.
Okay.
Oh, he's actually my cousin.
Okay, well, if you're a listener and you're feeling very disappointed in these young men, I too am disappointed. So Paul McCartney was part of the Beatles.
I
Knew it.
we know that.
So you guys know Beatles songs-ish.
Yeah.
A song by the Beatles, probably.
Yeah.
So this myth began in 1969, but it's supposedly that he died in 1966. Now, what happened was, in 1966, on November 9th, Paul was leaving a party with a bunch of people, and he got into a car crash and died, supposedly. This is the thing. So what happened during that night is he was partying with Mick Jagger and some other people. I don't know who it was, but anyway, they were trying to go to Mick Jagger's house, and so Paul rode with Mick Jagger, and then this other guy, whose name was Mohammed Hajij, I think that's how you say it, was driving Paul McCartney's car, and he got in a car accident, ended up getting hospitalized, but Paul McCartney wasn't in the car, and nobody heard anything about it, but they saw that Paul McCartney's car was crashed, so they just assumed he died. And there's these rumors floating around all about that. From there was just like false rumors floating around, but what happened from there was in 1969. Okay, so in 1969, Tim Harper wrote about the whole ordeal in an article in Iowa. And then he said he wasn't the original source for any of the claims. He just wrote it just to kind of like mess around. And then the friend who told him the story was this guy named D'Artagnan Brown. Now, D'Artagnan Brown said he heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy. And it just kept, one of those things. In October, there was a radio show with Russ Gibb, who was a DJ at a radio station in Michigan. He talked about the fact that McCartney was dead, and the thing that he showed on the radio show was this song called Revolution 9, and there was a part where it says number 9 repeated, and when they play it backwards, it sounds like Turn Me On, Dead Man. Also, a guy named Fred Labor, who was listening to the show, came up with this guy named... came up with the name of the guy who replaced Paul McCartney, because obviously the Beatles kept doing their thing even though Paul McCartney was supposedly dead, and so they said that it was originally a guy named Glenn Campbell, but he was like, no, that's not a good name, there's too many N's. Literally, that was his excuse, there's too many N's, so he came up with William Campbell, who became Bill and Billy, and that was supposedly the Fall, is what they call him, the fake Paul. So when he wrote this article and the whole radio show thing, it was just supposed to be a joke, but everybody just kept picking it up, especially in the United States. It was a little bit going on in Britain, but not as much. Also, shortly after, Paul McCartney moved to Scotland with his wife, and he had kids and everything like that. And he made several comments about this whole thing, saying that rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated, and he really just wanted to spend time with his family in the country and not be bothered by this whole ordeal. And then they even reached out to John Lennon, and he said, what did we do? Stuff him and shave him? How could we do that? I don't understand what it's all about. And this article, so a lot of this is from Beatles Bible, but there's this article from Rolling Stone where their whole thing is like, because there's a lot of references to supposedly Paul McCartney's death in their songs, is that he died, but their band was still young, so they wanted to keep up with all that thing, and Paul was really famous, so they hired this fake Paul, but then they began to feel bad, especially Lennon and Harrison, and so that's when they started adding the little hints into their songs. When they interviewed Ringo Starr, he said, if people are going to believe it, they're going to believe it. I can only say it's not true. And he was just like, I'm not going to try to stop these because people are crazy anyway. It doesn't really matter.
So basically, McCartney pulled like a massive Tupac and moved to Cuba.
No, he just moved to Scotland.
So
Way
it's
different.
not as luxury.
It was Cuba before. Cuba was the thing.
He went to Cuba, didn't like it.
It's like, nah.
Cuba, you know how people move to Cuba when they die? It's like Scotland was a thing in the past. Changes over time. Now,
like
I think it's turning
UK
more
thing.
to like Mexico now, but.
What about Argentina?
Yeah, Argentina too.
That was way back.
It's a different generation. It's a different hiding
Yeah.
point.
I guess.
Ours will probably be Canada, but.
Just the Great White North. Now, in November 7, 1969, Paul McCartney told fans that, the same quote he said, however, if I was dead, I'm sure I'd be the last to know. And he was just kind of joking with it. And, then it was Life magazine posted this article. And then after that, the people started to, decline with the rumors and just wasn't picking up as much. And then in 1970, Rolling Stone interviewed John Lennon, and he said, I don't know where that started. That was Barbie. I don't know. You know as much about it as me. No, that was bullshit. The whole thing was made up. We never went for anything like that. We put tit, tit, tit in girl. It would be things like a beat missing or something like that. See if anyone noticed. I know we used to have a few things, but nothing that could be interpreted like that. Referring to, the things that were in the songs. There's a song in 1971's How Do You Sleep, where Lennon's talking about McCartney from the Imagine album, and the song says, those freaks was right when they said you was dead. The one mistake you made was in your head. And McCartney parodied the rumors with the title and cover of his 1993 album called Paul is Live, and the artwork was based on the Abbey Road cover. And in the Abbey Road cover in the background, there's a car, and the license plate is 28IF, IF, which they said that is supposed to be, if he was alive, he'd be 28 years old. Even though it would have been 27, but whatever. And then, but it's on Paul McCartney's album, he wrote 51IS instead.
That's why we don't do drugs, because if you do drugs, you get bad at math.
And then you become a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, and then
It all goes downhill from there. So here are some of the songs that details of their album covers that they supposedly hinted that Paul McCartney was dead. And so Revolution 9 was the big one that we kind of already talked about. But there's also anything that had mentions of death or cars, like Eleanor Rigby, Good Morning, Good Morning. They could take a tiny bit of a song and just run away with it. And to the opening words of Got to Get You into my life, it says, I was alone, I took a ride, I didn't know what I would find there. There's also a line from A Day in the Life which says, he didn't notice that the lights had changed, which is just it's just dumb, in my opinion. It's a bit of a stretch.
I mean, who the hell thought of that?
This is all a stretch.
It's a very big stretch.
That's like a yoga stretch. That's...
It's pretty bad. Then this one's a little bit more. In the opening of She's Leaving Home, it starts with Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock as the day begins, which was the moment of the accident. So, and I think at some point they were just messing around and giving into it. And then there's Lady Madonna, which says Wednesday morning, papers didn't come, which talks about the suppression of the story. And at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever, Lennon can be heard saying, I buried Paul. But in an interview, he says, no, I wasn't saying I buried Paul. He was saying cranberry sauce.
I've listened to that song.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no.
I don't get how you could get I buried Paul from cranberry sauce or the other way around. Or also, why would you say cranberry sauce in a song?
About strawberries.
About strawberries, exactly. If it was strawberry sauce. In I'm the Walrus, you can hear Bury My Body and Oh, Untimely Death. And at the end of I'm So Tired, John Lennon mutters, Monsieur, 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 how about another one? But when played backwards, it supposedly sounds like Paul is dead man, I miss him, I miss him.
How the hell could you get that backwards?
Yeah, I don't think people understand.
If you have records, it's easy to play backwards.
No, but
you just put it on reverse.
no one goes in the studio and says okay, what sounds like this backwards? It's just not like.
How do we say someone's dead but not make it obvious? Play it
But
backwards.
not make it obvious. Okay. Do you guys know the song I'm Blue?
I think
I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die.
I have.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Have you heard the thing about what it says if you play it backwards?
No.
Oh, it says hide the body, eat the body.
Ew.
It's like hide the body, eat the body.
No, I've heard a ton of that stuff played backwards. I forget it was some rock artist who's big into Satanism.
Yeah.
And is saying we're all gonna go to hell anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you would have to go out of your way so much just to learn
to figure it out.
Yeah.
edit the song just so it says that.
Yeah, yeah. like it takes a long time.
Do you guys know the
Let me just put
YouTubers Rhett and Link?
Yeah.
Because they did a song like backwards, where they were like filmed the music video backwards. So the whole thing was them like where they would like
Yeah, the pillow one, right?
Yeah, the pillow one. And so they had to like listen to the song backwards and try to be able to mouth it backwards so that they could.
Yeah, like
That just sounds like a bad drug trip.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
That took them like weeks. I don't think rock artists who have to push out albums because of the label.
Have that time to figure these things out.
I don't think rock artists in that time period have that time.
Yeah, like also it's
with not that great technology.
Is this a theory that's like popular nowadays still, or no?
Kind of not. Like it was really big for like a good decade or so.
Yeah.
And it still comes around. I mean, there's always people with conspiracy theories who are still lingering. But I think it's hard because Paul McCartney is like, I mean, he's still making music, but he's in his 70s.
I'll give him credit.
If he is alive.
It's I'll give him credit. It's a cool idea, if anything.
It's interesting.
So everybody thinks he's dead? Everybody thinks he's dead, right?
Not everybody. It's not quite a big population.
That's
Actually,
the general consensus, though?
It's not even a general consensus.
I personally would say he's not dead.
I don't know. This Fall guy may be doing a hell of a job.
Yeah. The only way I could believe it is like if we looked at like pictures, maybe like before and after the crash happened, and it's like different like facial features. If that was like,
well, there's some people who are super into it who've done that like over the years.
Yeah, but like it can't be like freaking like, oh god, this guy had one little shave, shaved.
This guy's ear was slightly malformed.
Paul McCartney would never shave on a Tuesday.
I know Paul. He does not shave on Tuesdays.
Yeah, it's like
he apparently got into a car or a moped accident. Shortly after the car accident, and he had a scar. He had a scar on his lip from it that he grew out a mustache so it'd cover it, and then he also got a scar somewhere else. Like he got something else on his face, and some people are like, maybe that's like the fake Paul just
crashing into shit.
Are they saying
trying
it's
to
like
make
another?
it look more like
are they saying
him?
it's like another person or it's like a robot?
No, they say it's another person that they hired a new guy to be him.
Because I've heard like Hillary Clinton. Because I've heard conspiracy about her also, like how she's like a robot.
I haven't heard that.
I've heard that about Mark Zuckerberg, how he's a lizard.
That guy is. Dude, you see how he drinks water? He's like, it's like he's so serious and all that.
And he like
overheating.
His skin is weird.
Yeah, cool down. He's gotta change his batteries every once in a while.
I don't know anyone who's a water cooled robot, but let's be honest.
There's also in Ringo, like the
drummer,
Split did their own music. So Ringo, he had a song "Don't Pass Me By," and it says in it, "I'm sorry that I doubted you. I was so unfair. You were in a car crash and you lost your hair," which is fairly specific.
Yeah, but was this after all the claims?
Yeah, this was after all.
Okay, so then I feel like it's a joke.
I feel like they're playing into it to try to make more money too.
It's also just kind of.
It's all about money.
It's all about money for the cocaine.
And you never even know. This might be me being also a super conspiracy theorist, but like the person that might have started that conspiracy might have been like an in for the Beatles, so he can like the controversy would start up.
More. Get like the
more publicity.
Yep. That's a good idea.
Well, I'd assume they're already pretty public. They're the Beatles.
Well, yeah, they're the Beatles, but still, like, you still want to get as much money.
Yeah, this makes it more like...
You could always make more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they probably went from, like, because they're, like, more of, like, a teenage... I assume they're more like a teenage rave back then, but they went from, like...
They're, like, the One Direction.
Yeah, they went from, like, a teenage rave to, like, a household name. That's what they did.
There's also the song in Mother Nature's Song, which says, "Find me in my fields of grass," possibly referring to a cemetery. In Revolutionary 9, the song we talked about before, there's also the sound of a car crash in that. Now, there's also, everybody's like, this is it, is the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album cover. They're like, obviously it looks like they're at a funeral because there's like dirt and the flowers, and they think that the yellow flowers are supposed to represent Paul. So if you look like where the flowers right there, it kind of looks like it says "Be at Leslo," which was an island a Greek island that the Beatles actually almost bought. So there was that. So they're like, maybe he went and
buried him there.
Yeah. So there was that. Some people say
maybe it just sells Beatles. That's the name of the band.
That could be a possibility.
I do see "Be at Leslo," but
I see what they're talking about, but like It could also be like.
There's
just
also.
I think they maybe bought it because Beat Leslie spells Beatles.
Possibly.
No, I'm not conspiracy theorist, but.
What stupid thing shall we do with our money?
Let's buy a
Island.
named
I'd
after
buy an
ourselves.
island, though.
If I were as rich as the Beatles, I'd buy an island. I'd probably buy an
That'd
island.
be awesome. Now, there's a toy Aston Martin over here, which this is like a really small picture, so you can't really see it, which is what he drove in the accident. And then if you place a mirror horizontally across the middle of this logo of the Sgt. Pepper Band bass drum, so it bisects over Lonely Hearts, the phrase I1 spelled out, IX, he die can be seen. So some people perceive this different ways. So it could mean 11, so because number 1, 11, 9, he die, referring to the day of a car accident, November 9th. Another interpretation that it could be 111, which represent the 3 other Beatles, and then the X represents Paul McCartney, the dead one. There's also a diamond symbol between the he and the die, which points upward at McCartney. Also, there's an open... So, there's like a bunch of people going on right now. But there's an open hand above Paul's head in this, which in some cultures represents death. There's also a statue of the Hindu god Shiva, which is the destroyer. And his hand is pointing directly at McCartney. And then it also has the gatefold sleeve, which shows McCartney wearing a badge on his arm, which says OPD, which actually says OPP, but it stood for Ontario Provincial Police. Those same people took it as to mean officially pronounced dead. Okay, and then original pressings of the album had the lyrics of the songs, like, along with the photo of the Beatles, so the lyrics were there printed on it as well. And then in the photo, George Harrison's thumb points to the line, which says Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock, the alleged time of Paul's death. And then on the rear cover, McCartney had his back to the camera, suggesting that he is hiding his identity, and in some cultures that is said to represent death as well.
That's pretty.
So, are they saying that he is dead? They're saying that he is dead.
They're saying theorists are saying that the Beatles are even saying that he's dead in these things.
My question is, like, who would be...
So nobody actually knows whether he died or not?
Well, he probably didn't. It's like, it's...
It's a theory.
It's a theory.
Did he ever check into a hospital, like, after the car crash?
No.
He wasn't in the car crash, was the thing. It was the other guy was driving his car, and he got into a crash, and he was hospitalized, but... Paul wasn't in the car, so they're like, oh, he wasn't
nobody
there.
knows what happened to Paul after that night?
Well, they think he died.
Oh.
It's either he died in that accident and they just covered it up, so that's why you didn't hear anything, or he just wasn't in the car.
No, all that stuff you say about that album cover is actually kind of freaky, not gonna lie.
Oh, there's another album cover. So this is the Magical Mystery Tour. For this one, which I had never even heard of this before, but it spells the Beatles in stars right up here, but if you put that in a mirror, it shows the telephone number 231-7438, which belongs to a London mortuary.
Oh.
And then a number of the photos in this... Okay, and so this was had a booklet and an EP, and a couple of the photos in the booklet show McCartney without shoes, which, like, a lot of them say that symbolizes death, because dead people are buried with shoes, or are buried with shoes.
Yeah, that was...
That might be a stretch.
Yeah,
that sounds like a stretch.
That sounds like someone...
They bring it up so much, so I don't know.
The whole shoe thing. I guess
Dead people don't.
I guess if you just walk in the house, you take off your shoes, I guess you're just dead. That's...
I guess that's it. That's how it works.
It's just...
See, that's
every
why
single time you go in the shower, you're gone.
Yeah, I always
You're
wear my...
pronounced dead until you put shoes back on.
I always wear my Ultra Boost in the shower, you know?
Hospitals just keep a bunch of shoes on hand, so just in case, and just, we got you.
Life support gun unplugged, here's a pair of J's.
Okay, and then also in the booklet, it has a picture of McCartney shown in a military uniform, and he's behind a desk where there's a sign that says, I was. And Ringo's drum head, in a still from I'm the Walrus sequence, appears to say, love the 3 Beatles. And next to the kit are Paul McCartney's boots, covered in what appear to be blood stains.
Alright, I feel like, yet again, they might just be going, like... They might be saying it's a joke, but, like, if this ever was proven true, then that's, like...
They knew all along.
That was ridiculous. Because people really went out of their way for that one.
And then, so now there's the Abbey Road cover, which I'll pull up. The Abbey Road cover is a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, everyone knows this one.
Now they say that it's a funeral procession. So John Lennon's in the front, dressed in white, which is supposed to represent a priest, and then behind him is Ringo Starr, dressed in a black suit as the Undertaker, and then there's Paul, and he's barefoot again. So the whole dead people being barefoot. And if you look, the legs, so all the other three Beatles have their left foot forward, but Paul has his right foot forward, so he's like out of sync with them. And he also has a cigarette in his right hand, which supposedly Paul was left-handed. So if he smoked, it would have been in his left hand, so that's why they say this is the fake Paul. And then in the last is George Harrison dressed in like jeans and casual wear because he's supposed to represent the gravedigger in this funeral. Also, Paul's eyes are closed.
Oh.
And then this Volkswagen is the one with the license plate. And, oh yeah, so it said 28IF, but it also has LMW, which people use to interpret as Linda McCartney weeps. So
That's a stretch.
yeah, I feel like license plate is a stretch, but I think the whole setup of the Abbey Road thing,
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it feels thought out. That's all the stuff that the conspiracy theorists have.
He could have been holding it right hand just for the
For the photo?
cover. Yeah.
Just they're like, I want to include the cigarette, but they can't see it if it's in this hand.
Yeah.
So put it in this
Switch
hand.
hands.
Maybe he just doesn't like shoes.
Maybe he doesn't like shoes.
Yeah,
That's
so
also
he's not a shoe guy.
just I don't really like shoes.
These shoes aren't fire. I'm not gonna
I don't know. I'm not gonna say I believe it, but like I will give the people credit.
They're, yeah, like
Like
Maybe
they
he
want.
was shoeless the last time they saw him.
I like theories a lot, but I can't say I've ever seen a theory that went that in depth.
No, there's plenty of theories.
Like
I was gonna say.
like
You
that
must
one's
not be
like I personally that one was pretty in depth. I'm not gonna lie.
I honestly feel like I don't think Paul is dead, but I do think that the Beatles milked it
Yeah,
and
no, I do.
threw in like I watched early interviews of the Beatles, and they were just like jokesters and like just mess around, and they were just like young guys and like literally having fun. Like if like you three were hanging out and somebody was like, yeah, Sterling died, even though it wasn't true, you guys would be like, oh my god, we have to take this and run with it
Yeah, true.
and make a joke out of it. And so I feel like that's what the Beatles did. They're like, let's just make a joke out of it and see what happens.
I changed my name.
But they were just kind of being subtle about it.
I changed my name to Furling and just kind of run with it. Yeah. Fall. Furling.
Furling.
Are you dead?
Like,
Well, actually, no.
Obviously, I don't believe. Like, I don't want to say it's believable, but it's like
It's fascinating.
I don't think he's dead because I feel like they're trying to. If all the conspiracies are true in the title, I feel like if they're that good of friends, and if he didn't want to be, in the music industry with them anymore, not because he didn't like.
He just would have been like,
wanted to
nah,
rest.
fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, I think he would have. I think his friends probably would have done that because if you're pointing out all this, it seems like a little extra.
Yeah. I think it was just...
Especially with all the stuff in the album cover. I mean, why not just come out and say that he's dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure also back then, like, it wasn't, I don't know, music today, obviously in the industry, like, they know their way around stuff. Like, they really do. But back then, it was, like, kind of still, like, the economy wasn't really the greatest, and, like, they're kind of still testing out how to, like, trick people into doing stuff. So I feel like back then, for, like, to pull off that would be, like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, nowadays, they could probably pull it off. Like, something like that. Something extreme like that.
No, I don't think you could pull a conspiracy off like that.
No. I'm saying, like, if, like, they wanted, like, someone to fake their own death.
I think it's easier to fake your own death
Now.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
than it is
Yeah.
50 years
No,
ago
but, like,
today.
No, it's
But, like,
really
well,
easy to fake.
No,
your
but
own
I'm saying,
death.
like,
There's no
I'm not
security
saying,
cameras
I'm not saying it's easier, but I'm saying I could see more, like, a label doing it now than back then. Because they're more about money
Well,
now.
there's the
No
whole
way.
thing about, what's his name? XXX.
Jaw?
Jaw.
Yeah.
And toss.
Him. Like, there's, like, these whole conspiracies that he's alive.
Well, he died.
Yeah,
He got
no,
shot.
there was a live video of him in the car after he got shot.
There's still people out there who think, no.
There's always
He's
naysayers.
alive.
There's always naysayers.
That's the thing. I mean, it's just the same thing with Tupac. So,
Yeah, Tupac and Q.
It
At
really
least, with,
is.
at least with Tupac, there's sort of evidence to back it up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's video evidence showing X was shot.
yeah.
Yeah, like, there's nothing, like... Well, there's not, like, there's evidence showing, like, Tupac is alive. It's just saying that, like, there's no evidence showing that he's, like,
Dead.
fully dead.
Yeah.
So, you kind of just have
I
to, like...
hope he's alive.
I mean...
I like this music.
I mean, when I think of the Beatles, though, I think of, like, the first band ever that, like, was, like, teens enjoyed in the most.
Beach
And-
Boys.
They were supposed to
They're kind
be...
of, like, yeah, I guess, but, like,
They were on Full House, so that's
like,
how I learned about them.
On the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
But the Beatles are supposed to be the first, like, not rock, obviously, but, like, kind of, like, getting more, like, out there and, like,
like
edgy.
because, like, you know, that kind of started the. That's what I see. Like that started the whole era. Like the parents, like music wasn't like when we were kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your music sucks nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
it
is
was
my
that.
stuff.
It just like then it just progressed.
Only 90s kids
Yeah. It just progressed.
Only 60s kids remember Paul's dead. It's wild. I had never heard of it until I was on. I think I was doing Lizard People research, and it was like the top craziest conspiracy theories that people in America believe, and this was one of them. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
So is the conspiracy that he's dead or that he's alive?
The conspiracy is that he's dead.
And people... So there's more people that think he's alive than...
Yes, there's more people that think he's alive than dead.
I got caught. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if he's alive. I think he's alive.
well, obviously he's alive. I think he's alive.
I think he's alive too.
There's not enough evidence showing that he's dead. I mean...
That's true. Yeah, all the evidence, quote unquote, that's showing that he's dead is all of the Beatles songs and cover.
There's no like police reports.
Exactly. There's not like government things messing around.
You could nitpick anything from anything to prove anything.
No, dude. There's only
It's true. Okay, so what's the ruling? Is Paul McCartney alive or dead?
alive.
I
Alive.
think he's alive.
Yeah.
Alive. You think he's alive?
I don't.
I think he's alive.
proof.
Yeah, I don't. I think if the Beatles did do it, like if these messages, these subliminal messages are legit, I think it was just the Beatles messing around.
Yeah.
And like playing on this joke. But I don't think that they were like, we killed him, we feel really bad. Well, we didn't kill him. He died, we feel really bad about covering up his death, so we're gonna do all this stuff. Because like the other Beatles died.
Yeah.
Or like when John Lennon died, it wasn't like, oh, we need to cover this up. It was like,
Yeah, he's dead.
no, he's dead. Yeah.
About that.
And there were eyewitnesses when that happened too, right?
I think so. It was outside of his house.
And then some crazy
came
fan
shot
shot him in
him.
the
Yeah.
face.
Okay, so for listeners, there's social media accounts. So there's Instagram, which is at HMCT Podcast, Twitter, which is at Podcast HMCT, and the website, which is historiesmysteriesconspiracies.com, which Katie has so wonderfully volunteered to take over. So all that stuff is Katie now. And that is it. Sound good?
Can I just do a couple shout outs?
No.
Sure, go for it. You can do it. You can do shout outs.
Shout out to Little Cookie, that man's Check it out, www.littlecookie.com/SoundCloud.
Stir Fry 182 is the snap.
Yeah, add me on Snap. Shout my boy Dennis Smith Jr. balling out here.
Shout out to the cat right there. You're a dope cat.
CJ
That's
is
it.
good. CJ is a much quieter podcat than Milo. Milo's terrible.
All right, I'm good.
Okay, so be your weird self.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.